well, so that people who missed this will be able to watch it back.
Sure.
And, you know, you can share it as well if you like, because this is not something where I feel like with some of the other talks or some of the other sessions that we've done, it's very much about the group being a safe space, and we don't necessarily want to share it outside of the group. But I think with this, unless anybody disagrees, I feel like it's something that we can absolutely share outside of the group if we feel like it, because I think it's important. And as Adam will tell you later, it's something where a lot of movement is happening at the moment, which is great.
Mhm.
So yeah, for anybody who doesn't know me yet or know me very well, I'm Leonie. I'm currently taking care of Daniel's group for the week, curating all the talks and webinars and sessions. And being a non-UK born artist myself, I think yeah, it just was something that I was quite keen on, to have a chat with people and just kind of, you know, exchange experiences and give each other advice as well on if somebody might feel stuck due to a certain problem they encounter in their career, and somebody else might have gone through the same thing and found a way through it, etc. So I think it's great to kind of build a community, not just within our nationalities, but just like in general with the I'm just somebody else than all the UK people. Um, I think that the way that I had sort of envisaged the whole thing was because I've invited a few people specifically who are friends of mine who I know aren't from the UK, and obviously I expected a lot of people to kind of come and watch. But I think I would like to keep it quite open. I will be asking sort of specific questions to people where I know that they probably have a story about that. But if any of the other guys, Maria, Linny, you know, if you want to kind of chip in with your experiences, and I kind of really want this to be a dialogue and a conversation rather than anything too rigid. I think Nuno is about to come on. He's Portuguese, and he's one of the few non-UK artists who've actually made it to the West End. So I'm really keen to chat to him. He's in Hamilton, so that's amazing. But why don't we, just because it's such a small group, which I think is actually great, if we just go, everybody just a really quick introduce yourselves, say where you're from, how long you've been in the UK, etc., and just kind of give us a tiny little background. I'm going to start, as I say, my name's Leonie, I'm German. I've been in the UK for almost 7 years now. In September, it will be 7 years. I came here to train, so I never actually had any kind of acting work before that in Germany. I came here to go to drama school, trained in musical theatre, and then it sort of just made sense to stay here because I had made the contacts in drama school. And then, yeah, just kind of have been trying to find my place in this industry that we all love over the past 7 years. Phil, you talk.
Myself? Okay, yes. So, yes, I'm Philip Wolf. Well, at least you can tell by my surname that I do have some connections elsewhere. So, my dad's German. I'm waiting on my German passport. I'm so desperate to get out of this country, I can't even tell you. So, this is a kind of reverse sort of situation we find ourselves in. Now that Boris has taken over and everything's going to hell, I'm trying to get out as quickly as I can. Anyhow, that's going to take a year to come through. So, other than that, yes, as I was saying before, I head up the screen acting department at the International School of Screen Acting. So outside of my incarnation with Screen Actors London, which is the company co-founded with Leonie and Pop, I've got a sort of a background in working with a number of international students in an acting capacity. So I'm interested, obviously, just to hear what your guys' experiences are and see if there's anything I can contribute as well.
Great. Laura.
Hi
Hi.
everyone. Oh,
Hi.
there are two Lauras. Oh, hi. Hi,
Oh,
Val.
sorry. Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry. No. Oh no, that was just because Yvonne just came on
Hi. Sorry.
at that moment, so you both said hi, but that's okay. We're just going through a little bit of an introduction round, Yvonne. No problem.
Right. Okay. Thanks. So I'm late.
Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here and to learn from you guys, and hopefully some things that I say resonate with your experiences. I'm Peruvian Swedish, and I trained in the UK, and I stayed there for after I finished training for a year trying to get work. I always knew that my place was LA. That's where I wanted to be all my life. But I do think that training in the UK is the absolute best. So I'm glad I had that experience. And then I lived in LA until pandemic hit, and now I'm back home in Peru and developing 2 films here.
Amazing. Right, Alex.
Hi guys, I know some of you who I don't know. Nice to meet you. I am Alex Marchi. I'm a native Italian actor. I came to the UK about 9 years ago. I came as a pharmacist. I wasn't into acting when I came over here. And luckily I found the pleasure of acting later on. And I just couldn't stop doing it. So I decided I wanted to do it professionally. So I was lucky enough to get a place in a drama school in London. So I moved to London and I became an actor in 2015. And I've been working since.
Amazing.
Sometime.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Vitek.
To unmute myself. Hello, I'm Adam. I was born in Poland, raised in Germany, and I actually, I came to the UK as well to train here, but I was already working as an actor kind of in the kind of like fringe world, so to speak, in Melbourne. Before I moved to London, so I was performing like at Melbourne Fringe, and was also training as a dancer with a dance company. And then I decided to actually make it full time and make it a proper career, not just something that I do in the evening after I finish my work at the office. So I came to the UK, trained at Central, and that was about a decade ago that I came here. So I'm here for a decade now, and similar to you, Leonie, that I basically decided to just stay here. So my career has always been UK based, but I am trying to branch out across Europe as well. You're on mute, Leonie.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Attila.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Attila. This is so nice. Hello to all of you. I was born in Germany to Turkish parents and grew up bilingual. And at the age of 21, I moved to Istanbul and went to drama school there for 2 years in Turkish, which was an undertaking. And then graduated and went back to Germany and came here. A lot happened in between, which I will, which is too long to talk about. But for reasons, I came to the UK. I wanted to act here and started applying for drama school and got into the Oxford School of Drama. Did a postgrad there for a year and graduated. And that was, we came around the same time, Leonie, actually. It was 2013 when I came here, August.
Yeah.
It's 7 years now. Gosh. And graduated, and then it made sense to stay here. But since, especially in the last year or two, and that was my long-term plan anyway, was to connect with the German industry and the Turkish industry, and hopefully one day work regularly in all three places, in all three languages. That's the goal, still going, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk about that later as well.
Yeah.
Leonie.
Hi. Hello. Interesting we're talking about this today because I left the land below Canada exactly 10 years ago to the day.
Wow.
For a year. Moved to Frankfurt, and we've not been back. So we're still here. Lived in Frankfurt for just over a year and then moved to London in 2011, and came as a trailing spouse. So I kind of had some choices or no choices what I was going to do. And since I had done some acting in New York, I thought, well, maybe that would be a good idea to pick that up as a profession. And it's been really interesting, to say the least. gotten work, but not as much as I like. And as I'm sure others have found, although maybe not so much, I'm in a funny niche because I'm not in a niche. There's a lot of American actors here, and I think we're not, I don't know, let's say we're in competition for the same roles with British actors. It's not like you don't have that same niche that some of you also have. So that's been a bit of a challenge. So it's nice to be with other people who are in, not from this land situation, except for Phil. And, I'm interested to hear what everybody else's experiences have been. So.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Leonie.
Hello.
Maria.
So hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Maria, born in Moscow, as you can hear from my Russian accent. So I did my first MA in art history, and then I studied acting in Los Angeles actually for 1.5 years. But I couldn't obtain US visa, and so I didn't want to go back to Russia. And I thought, okay, I go to country of Shakespeare and I'm gonna study acting here. So here I am. Though I had another MA here in art business, so I thought it's just better investment. And so I'm working now in art, and acting is hopefully will be a second job.
Cool, great. Thank you for joining us. Mark.
Yeah, hello, my name's Mark. I'm German-Japanese. My dad's Japanese, my mum's German, and I grew up in Germany. And I lived for a bit in the US, and then in Amsterdam I studied in Amsterdam, and then I studied economics actually before, and got a little bit into acting there, and then decided after I finished economics, I decided I wanted to study acting as a logical career progression, and right, and then I came to London 2012. So been here 8 years, and went to drama school here. I did a postgraduate, and I've been doing things ever since, I guess. I think for me, because I grew up in Germany, and I've only lived in Japan for 1 year, so my German is definitely much better than my Japanese. But I found that pretty much most of my work is because I'm Japanese rather than because I'm German. So I don't know how that's different to most of you, if you look like the country you're from or not, I guess stereotypically. So it's interesting. I mean, even now, like a voiceover I'm doing next month is, even though it's in English and it's an RP, I think, but it's still because I'm Japanese. So and also a voiceover I did last year as well was, and Attila and also, but we spoke about this one, and Adam also, you actually contacted me about this, was because they were looking for a non-white German voiceover voice actor. So that's interesting. So I can't seem to escape that, I guess. But I'm not complaining, but it's just interesting, I guess. So I think I've yet to do any acting related to German in the 8 years that I've been here, which is, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's typecasting is definitely something I want to talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Haley.
Hello. I am another one of the people from the country we do not talk about right now. The country below Canada. I like that. I'm going to steal that. I actually came back to the US for the apocalypse because I've been in the UK for about 6 years. I came for drama school at Central as well. Got an MA after getting a BA in the US, tried the New York thing for a while. New York is a horrible, miserable place. And so London is much better. I like it better. And then I've been working there for 5 or 6 years since I graduated. I've been doing secret cinema, mostly immersive theater stuff, which has been awesome and fun. And we don't have that in the US yet. So, and I've been doing sort of visa hopping, and my biggest issue has been figuring out, because I've got the job offers, I just don't always necessarily have the sponsorship or the visa available as readily. I can't complain. It's so much harder to get a visa for the US. So I try not to complain too much. But yeah, so I had a couple jobs lined up before the pandemic hit, which have obviously all fallen through. So I have no visa prospects. So I've come back to the US to wait out the end of the world and then hopefully maybe see if I can get back over there. So who knows?
Fingers crossed.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Visas is something European actors are also going to have to look at.
Yeah, you're going to have to figure that out.
Definitely a good thing to talk about and get some experience from you there. Thank you, Hayley. Yvonne.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I feel a little bit of a fraud because I am born in the UK. However, sometimes I feel like a non-UK person for obvious reasons. And I've just come on here to find out people's experiences because I'm very interested in people and see about their journey and their struggles and see if that can help me in my struggles that I've been going through. Not many, but I just like to hear people's life stories. I'm nosy basically, but I just like to hear people's life story. And I just think very good topic. And if I could help in any way, I'm here to help as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining, Yvonne. It's you saying you feel like a fraud. It's like, as I said, this is for everybody, not just, sorry about this airplane, not just for non-UK artists. I was hoping that maybe a few more UK artists would pop in, but yeah. So thank you for coming, and yeah, hopefully you'll take something useful away from here as well. Yeah. And last but not least, Nuno.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
A little bit quiet.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do a kind of a Kim Kardashian speaking on the phone version.
That's okay.
Can you hear me like that, though?
Yeah. If you enunciate, I think we'll be all right.
Let me. Any better?
Yes. Yeah, so much better.
Can you hear me all?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the disruptive entrance and another disruptive entrance. My name is Leonie. I'm from Portugal, and I've been in the UK for 9 years. I missed a lot of people's introduction, so I don't know actually what the rule is, but I'm not sure if musicals is the norm. So I'm probably should mention that musicals has been kind of 80% of the work that I've done in the UK, which I love. That's what I came to the UK to do. And I've been a very kind of lucky and blessed, I feel, by the way things have gone. So yeah, I'm very happy for the invite, and hopefully we'll have some good chats here.
Great, thank you, Nuno. Yeah, I did sneakily introduce you a little bit before you came on, and gave away the big the fact that you're one of the few non-UK nationals who made it to the West End, which is super exciting. So we'll talk about that as well. Great. Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly shut my window because there are now cars coming through my street. Yeah, so I think what we've already obviously kind of touched upon a little bit is the whole typecasting thing, where you feel like you come out of drama school and you're like being pushed into this drawer, and I feel like your first instinct is to fight it and to be like, oh, but I don't always need to be the German or the Japanese or, you know, the Hispanic person. I can play any part. What was kind of your experience with it? If I look at Attila, for example, I assume maybe there was some typecasting because of your Turkish background and your kind of general appearance that wasn't necessarily German. And like, how did you feel about that, and how did you deal with that?
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, I struggled to get cast for German parts. You know, I think reason for that is I think that stereotyping still happens a lot. To me, it sometimes feels like, you know, especially with the smaller parts, it feels like there's a sort of world building happening, and you know, as with every world building, you have pieces of furniture, and you have all the things that make that world come to life. And I think that often smaller acting parts, I think, are seen as part of the world building. That's my perception of it. And, you know, it's not rare to get a casting call. I've seen so many of these where you get, you know, they're asking for a German soldier, and they're supposed to be 1 meter 80 tall, and and they say this, you know, with a pronounced chin, a strong chin, and blonde hair, and that's obviously not me. So yeah, German parts are a struggle. I Arabic or Middle Eastern has been more of a, you know, a kind of another stereotypical bracket that I or agents try to push me into or get work from, which I think makes sense. However, there I run the problem that I'm often actually not dark skinned enough, because again, and that's a real shame. I think that, you know, when we talk about stereotypes, I think often, you know, that's the stereotype of the audience in the UK, or the Western mind projects, you know, places have a kind of prime figure. That's what those people look like. And actually, I do not fit into the Arabic stereotypical view of Arabic people or Middle Easterners. So for me, in terms of looks, and so I think that is a really good thing to be talking about, maybe. A point that we've reached is, I think there's a certain luck if the country, your origin, and the accent that if you have an accent, but your background matches the stereotypical look. That is a good thing to be working with in the early stages of the career, I think. For me, I think it's made things rather difficult. And especially having a German and a Turkish background, I always thought that it would be another string to my bow. However, I am now realizing, and I've had one-to-ones with casting directors, where they're almost suggesting that I should almost take out one of the two and focus, say, don't appear German, it just confuses people's minds, just go for Middle Eastern full on, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I guess
yeah.
for biracial people, that's even like another kind of layer of struggle on top of not being from the UK. But like Laura, I suppose you're not Hispanic enough, but also not Swedish enough, and Mark, you're not German enough, but also not Japanese enough. Like I can see that being like another sort of, yeah, on top of not being English, to add to that. Laura, you said something interesting earlier when we kind of had a bit of a chat, where you said when you moved to the US, you suddenly felt like you found that Hispanic sort of niche, which you never had in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I made a spreadsheet before moving because I needed to make sure the numbers, you know, supported my gut feeling that there were more jobs for me out there in LA than in London. And yes, there were 100 in LA for every 10 in the UK. And so that appeased my mind. But once I got there, it was immediate. Like it was just, people were welcoming. You could see it in, you know, even from the audition, like there was a place for me. I don't know if I was projecting that, but certainly because I think LA is very Latino. So, like I think at least 50% of people in LA are Latino. So I felt like there was definitely a place for me there. I never felt like I fit in the UK. I love it with all my heart, but I just felt there was no space for me there. And then I also feel ashamed because I changed my name. My birth name is Alessandra Rodriguez, which is more Latino, but I felt like having a more artistic name that is bland. You don't know where it's from. And now the world is shifting to like, yes, let's stick to one thing. I have a career coach. She said, like, go full Latino, just like stick to that. Just kind of what your agent, I think Attila, was saying, stick to one thing. So it's just all food for thought, and sort of at least in LA, they're always telling, what's your brand? What are you going for? Which I guess it's like, it's a different approach to the entertainment industry. Yeah. Which is interesting, but.
Yeah, that is interesting. Do you, Nuno, do you feel like obviously your background is more musical theater than kind of film and TV, but do you feel like coming from a Latino sort of background, did you have the same kind of, sorry, my alarm is going off, but I need to drink some water.
Yeah, I definitely had a similar thing. Like even the jobs that I did, like the first job that comes to my mind that I've done TV, I played Juan. So it's like, there's no Juans in my country. I think we kind of violently bash our heads against what the UK reality is in terms of how they perceive the nationalities. And that's more important for us to, sadly, to tune into in order to shape ourselves as products to fit in to what the category is, basically. So I end up, I think I really feel for Attila, for example, because like I was trying to rack my brain thinking, oh my God, what would I do in that position? And it's really hard to know what to do. So I think I'm luckier in the sense that I'm bilingual with French, actually. And in Portugal, we all speak a little bit of Spanish. So I end up knowing how to do a Spanish accent speaking English. I also lived in Italy, so I know how to do an Italian accent speaking English. And none of those are my country, but those are always what people want me to be. So I end up kind of covering quite a large part of the world, of the planet, not because I'm so like, look at me, all these languages, but because the UK's general perception of what nationalities are or what my look is a little bit warped. So it takes a little bit of time, I find, to adjust yourself to that. And I do believe, Leonie, you said the gut instinct is to resist it. I understand, but I didn't feel it that way, in the sense that maybe I sold my soul. I was a bit more mainstream, and I just got a shirt that screamed Juan, and I learned how to do my curls in a way that screamed Juan. And I know another way to do kind of, or present myself how they would want like a Middle Eastern person to look like. And this goes into all sorts of extremely offensive and politically incorrect stereotypes, which I think we should fight if we are in a position to fight, and we should kind of like be smart about which battles we decide to pick. It is frustrating, and I think it's an understandable frustration for us all to have, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think so too, but I think you raise a super valid point there, which is, as you know, just one person coming out of drama school, you're going to realize that's what it's like, and you alone aren't going to be able to fight it. You can put yourself forward for however many parts you want playing a British person. You're not going to get seen if your last name is Schleesing, and I did kind of think about changing my last name to sound like an English girl, but I was like, well, why? Because also I find the thing is, if you're going up for a British part, you're going up against 20,000 other actors. If you're going up for a German part, you're going up against 200 other actors in London. So finding that niche and actually sort of, embracing it is actually the smart thing to do. And yes, you're saying it's, maybe a little bit politically incorrect and stereotypical, but in this particular industry, it's definitely the smart thing to do.
I have to say that really quickly, that in the beginning, it still happens, but I would get like the breakdowns of, I don't know, lawyer, mid-30s, falls in love with a girl, comes from Argentina, I could do, but lawyer, mid-30s, falls in love with a girl, period, I couldn't do. Yeah. And that's really frustrating, because why is it completely different? Some productions are different. Like I remember when I started doing TV, they say like, oh, if you do like a show like Skins at the time, this was like 9 years ago, the broadness of what a person from the UK can look like is very different. Of course, I could never sound from the UK, so that's never a case for me. But do you know what I mean? Different productions, I think, have different views. But sadly, we have a lot to go.
Absolutely. And you mentioned accents, and I think accent snobbery is a huge thing in the UK as well. Like, I don't know about you, Hayley, for example, but I got told I need to have a perfect RP. Like I went for Wicked, and I got recalled for Elphaba, and my agent got told by the casting director that I needed to work on my RP, and I'm like, she's literally from
She's
Oz.
green.
Like she's green.
She's green.
From a fantasy land. Why do I need to work on my RP?
Yeah.
Did you have the same experience, Hayley?
Yeah. Yeah, except I had it was the same, but the feedback to my agent was her RP was better than some of the the Brits that we've had. It was amazing, but it still wasn't quite. Still wasn't real, so it still didn't quite count because they still knew I was American. I was like, great, she's green. Who cares?
It's crazy because it's a serious problem in casting in this country across the board. And you know, I mean, there are very famous examples, obviously, of regional actors having to train in RP in order to become valid actors. And that seems, you know, to be changing at some level. And I think even internationally, in terms of casting, when you're looking at how people are cast, obviously Netflix is always the example people bring up as a shorthand way of saying, well, look, finally things are changing and casting's becoming a lot more interesting and a lot more varied. I think that the interesting challenge that I found with my international students at the International School of Screen Acting when they were looking for work, and some of the frustrations they had, was that at times they'd be looking to perfect an English accent. And with the best will in the world, no matter how brilliant a linguist they may be, if they were up against other native English-speaking people, they simply weren't going to get the role. And of course, that applies across the board to everybody. So I think, and of course, I'd always argue, well, look, for goodness sake, you'd want to, and this would be true of every actor, initially lean in to your typecasting and not see that as a restriction or a limitation, but in actual fact, something to embrace, because certainly in TV and film, there's a shorthand which is requisite to the script. And of course, another question would be, is the script any good? Is there anything worthwhile in the character you're playing? But that's in a way, or at least it could be argued, it's separate to the way somebody might be typecast, whether you're based on whatever you look like, whether you're from this country or another country. If that makes any sense, that's clear enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Nuno, your comment, we can't compete with RP natives because accents are such a giant pillar of UK acting training. It's true. And Adam, is that something, because you're campaigning massively at the moment with equity, to, I mean, talk about it yourself.
Well, there were so many amazing points just made. I kind of like thought like, oh my God, I want to say something to this and I want to say something to that, and now I forgot everything. So yeah, like the accent thing is a huge issue. So the campaigning that we have started now doing with equity. So for those people who, some of you guys may have already seen like some Facebook posts, etc. But for those who don't know anything about it yet. So me and a couple of other non-UK born actors or non-UK born artists have gotten together at the start of this year, and we put together a motion that we submitted at the London AGM for equity. And it was, the title of the motion was Equal and Fair Representation of Non-UK Born Artists. It was received with overwhelming success and enthusiasm, including British actors or British members speaking out in favor of us. And you know, yeah, completely supporting it. So it was not just passed unanimously, but how the AGM works, all the motions are presented, and then at the end there is a vote which motion is selected to go to the ARC, which is the Annual Representative Conference, which is the nationwide conference for the entire UK. And our motion was picked with an overwhelming majority. Then Corona happened and the ARC was cancelled. And we hope that at the end of the year, there will be something similar, like a nationwide conference. But in the meantime, we've been pushing equity very, very hard to, you know, not just, you know, drop this and let this fall by the wayside until the end of the year, because we want to exploit the momentum. And so after having several Zoom meetings with equity staff, we actually had last week the very first official kind of like equity meeting specifically for non-UK born artists. I wasn't present at that meeting myself, which is such an irony. I've been working towards this for years, and then exactly on that day I book a job post-COVID after months of like no work and no money at all. But my colleagues have told me it was an amazing success. Almost 100 people attended. 100 was the limit of the Zoom room anyway. And so a lot of people shared exactly the things that you just shared. There was also one comment or one contribution. One person talked about agents, how agents, that this would only apply now to EU citizens among you, how one agent, for example, expressed concerns that they no longer want to take on EU citizens because they don't know what Brexit will bring. So for those who are not here on a work visa but on their EU passport, you know, there might be additional forms of discrimination happening in the months and years to come. But then also, yeah, accents is a huge issue, obviously, and I think the way, I mean, what we are trying to do is we are trying to both make the argument for incidental casting, which means accent shouldn't play a role. So what Nuno said with a male mid-30s lawyer, if it's just male mid-30s lawyer, and maybe even on top of that, it's a London-based series, every person of every background should be considered, including people of foreign nationalities. Unfortunately, there is a default thinking that if it's male mid-30s lawyer, people seem to think, oh, well, so it's British. And I think this is something that other minorities have been fighting against as well for years or for decades, this default thinking that it's always going to the majority group unless you specifically say this lawyer is Portuguese. And even a casting director actually said once, some years ago, when I asked them at a Q&A, what if the role is male mid-30s lawyer? Would you call in non-British actors? And they actually responded, they would normally only call in British actors unless the role specifies it. So there is a lot of education to be done, a lot of work to be done to open up people's minds with regards to incidental casting. But then at the same time, with all the, you know, embracing your niche, what we just talked about, is about this thing that we, even if you can't do an RP or if you can't do a London accent, there should still be plenty of roles out there in foreign accents, because that's what there should be plenty of foreign roles out there, period. Again, you know, particularly if it happens in a large city, and the lead cast shouldn't all be 100% British, which is still the case. And so those are kind of like the two things. On the one hand, more foreign roles, foreign lead roles, and on the other hand, more incidental casting where accent or nationality doesn't play a role. That's the two things we try to focus on.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt, first of all, thank you so much for doing this work, Adam. Like to know that you're campaigning for this cause for all this time is really touching to me anyway. Genuine question. I'm trying to put myself on the problem, on the other side's perspective, to try to understand. Do you think it's because if they cast a production with a lawyer mid-30s falls in love with a girl, and in the production, a British audience, say, are watching this on TV, and the character has a little bit of an accent, do you think that the creatives will think that this is possibly steering the plot or the audience to the wrong direction? Because let's say it's like I don't know, a crime drama. You're like, oh, I spot an accent. So maybe that means that there's something relevant to do with the fact that he might be like, do you think the creatives are worried about this, or do you think the discrimination just comes from somewhere else?
It could be, but that would exactly feed into the point of the stereotypes that people seem to have in this country. That, you know, like if you are from Portugal, are you, you know, that kind of person? And if you are from Russia, then you know, is this person involved with whatever, prostitution? And if this person is from Italy, are they involved with the mafia? That's exactly the kind of stereotypes that we want to see addressed and want to open people's minds about it. And again, that is something that is nothing new anyway, to address those stereotypes. So yeah, I agree with you, Nuno. It could be, and that's exactly the kind of conversations we need to have with employers. That are there any concerns that we can dispel, that not every, you know, person from that country or from that background is that kind of, you know, profession or that kind of, you know, stereotype.
Yeah. If I may I add something to that?
Yeah.
I for me, a big part of bizarrely doing the actor's work has been understanding the roles of other people in the chain of productions. So agents, casting directors, you know, what does their work revolve around, and what motivates their thinking? And I think maybe, I mean, a question or an answer I could come up with, Nuno, maybe regarding your question, is that I think you know, when we look at the kind of risk taking that is happening at the moment in the casting process, I'm not sure how it feels to you, but I feel like the casting process is now, you know, it's very lean, it's very fast, it's all about, you know, saving time, saving money. It has to be, you know, like so many other things in London, which is probably doesn't come as a surprise, but I think it's a lot about efficiency. And if I imagine a casting director's role and how they feel about it,
Oh.
mess up.
I think we're losing you there, Attila.
Oh, you're getting quite
Are
glitchy.
you here? Are you? Wait. Is that better?
That's it.
Yeah, better?
That's good.
So that was literally half a foot, but internet, you know.
Yeah, up to like efficiency, and that's when you start.
Right. I think that's like so many other things in London. I think that the casting process is really about speed and about reliability. And I think that if an actor doesn't do their job well on set, you know, or there's a mistake in casting, something happened, you know, they will ask the casting director to explain themselves why that happened. They will have to be responsible for that. And I think that part of the reason why those parts, you know, lawyer 30, whatever, are cast as British is because that's how it's always been, and it's worked for them. And I think the industry will not try something, you know, go out of their way and make their own job more difficult because it will take longer or there will be a risk in it, unless it pays off in some way for them. And I think that's what a lot of the time, I think what they're thinking, of course they might audition somebody who's foreign, but they're also thinking, do I have to? Like, what will I get from doing it? And I think, you know, casting somebody who you've already cast before, who you've already worked with before, who's English, you don't have to worry about them at all. It's just easy. And I think that's just sometimes, I imagine, I don't know casting directors well enough to, but I imagine that could be part of it.
I think that's right. It's a shame that when, you know, as you say, easy, of course, really means lazy. And the oddness of it is, you know, the oddness of it is that for any reasonable casting director looking to do something interesting and authentic, they should, in all reality, be looking for anybody in any role, because it adds depth and interest to the part. You know, everybody has prejudices, and we'll always turn up somewhere and suddenly find ourselves meeting somebody in a profession that, if we were honest with ourselves, we suddenly go, oh, well, that's unexpected, or something within us, you know what I mean, flags that up. The reality is, you know, everybody does everything. And it seems odd that casting directors are slow on the uptake in that respect.
I imagine they're working a lot. I think casting directors probably work a lot, and they work really hard. I mean, that's the impression I get from various interviews that I witnessed. There might be an element of the industry actually leaving no space, no room for taking your time, seeing maybe more people from smaller agencies or people that are unsigned. I think, you know, I think it all flows into that process of like faster, better, you know, and then maybe this is really unpopular with them as well, but they kind of feel forced to adapt and work in that manner because they have so much work on. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Laura, you don't need to raise your hand. Bless you.
Sorry, thank you. The opposite of that is that what I've seen happening in California, at least these past few months, is that there is such a big move to like only hire people that are not like, that don't look stereotypically white. And we're going to the territory of like race and heritage, but that even to the point that there was this article, like in a mainstream news media thing, saying that there was like reverse racism where they weren't hiring any white people. And I was like, well, really? Like, I don't think that was really necessary at all. But I have seen this, you know, this change happening in the last, like, I think like 5 years in the US, like what is happening there. And I think, I don't think there's any reason for the UK not to step up. Yes, like maybe smaller towns in the UK are like predominantly one race, but like London is invariably like such a multicultural place that there is no excuse. And being like, yeah, I understand if like you're scared of losing your job as a casting director, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I guess like you do have some sort of like inner compass saying like what's right, and I think that is part of your job as well.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we've seen it done, and we've seen, I don't know if you all have watched Sex Education, for example, which, yes, the cast is pretty much all of them are UK actors, but they're all from over the place. The accents are so inconsistent. You've got some northern accents, some London accents, some kind of indescript weird accents, and it doesn't take away from the story and the you've got all of the different national ethnicities in it, the black Eric and an Indian girl and a Hispanic girl, and because the acting and the writing and everything is so good, we don't care about any of that, so it does get frustrating.
The brilliant thing about Sex Education is because also then the design of it was made specifically to appeal to American audiences, because they wanted it. They went, right, we're going to cast a British cast that sounds like they're from all over, so everyone in the UK will have someone they can react to, have someone they can connect with, but then we're going to design it like an American type school so that the Americans also understand it, because Americans don't get British school at all. And to go back really quickly, Attila, your point of casting directors being afraid to do something different unless it's worthwhile. I think what Laura was bringing up in the US is people are getting a lot of praise for non-traditional casting, especially when it comes to casting people of different races in parts where they weren't always like that, starting from Hamilton and other sort of type things. That has started to get praise in the US over here, which hopefully will cross over and get to a point where actually taking that risk can be a good thing and can cause positive reviews and make people are more likely to watch something going, hey, did you hear that they cast so and so in this role that's so different and they're brilliant and everyone should watch it because of that. So that's a positive thing that's happening that hopefully will also jump across the pond, I think.
Yeah.
I also think, sorry.
No, yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I also think it's having a voice and keep talking about it. It'll change people's, the casting directors' perception. We have to keep talking about, otherwise it's never going to change, as you all said. I think, again, if you're looking at castings and they ask for a doctor, like you mentioned, I wouldn't go for a doctor's role, because that's not, no one would see me as a doctor. They'd probably see me as a cleaner or something. But you need to change people's perceptions, because there's people in different roles, in life, in society, people have got different roles, but don't seem to realise that a black person, let's say a black person, can be a doctor or can play this role, but they don't specify it and you don't apply for them. So we just need to keep going and going and going. I know things are changing slowly, but we just need to keep going, and that's for everybody. Keep pushing through. And I've been to many seminars in which just said, apply for it, even if it doesn't state your background, just apply and see. I can only say no.
I have to say, sorry, Adam, go on.
Yeah, I just want to kind of like jump on that with this, like, apply for it. I think that's just want to kind of like share my own experience of talking with my agent about it. So I had lots of conversations with my agency about stereotyping. They completely are on my side and on the side of any kind of like actor who experiences discrimination on their books in whatever way it comes. And they do submit me for non-German and non-Polish roles all the time. Or, I mean, maybe not all the time. Obviously, I need to fit like the other criteria of the role, but they constantly try to push me for roles that doesn't specify German or Polish. Yet the reality is I still don't get called in for them most of the time. I think only if it's, if it requires some other specialty skill, like for example, physical theater or dance, then I'm seen. But if it's just a general kind of like role, non-specified nationality, even though my agency is pushing, and so I would recommend to any actor of any background to tell that the agency always push for the mainstream roles. It may not happen, but hopefully it will happen over the time.
So it's the casting directors we need to be focusing these things at then.
Yeah, because I think agents are on our side. If we have, some genuine open conversations with them, they will push us for those roles that are not our stereotypes, but it is, the decision makers basically that need to be convinced at the end of the day.
And the production companies that are hiring, that are making the final decisions, have to be willing, because the casting directors are probably shy about putting forth actors that they don't think the production companies will accept either. So that, like Adam, what you're doing, that change has to go all the way up the line, doesn't it? Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, like we kind of, obviously we're still at the very, very start of whom we want to talk to. Casting Directors Guild would be one target audience, but then also maybe commissioners at the different broadcasters as well, and so on. So that's something, all down the line to kind of like figure out the strategy and the tactics. And also I saw your question now, Leonie, in the chat. So in terms of how to follow us, if you are an equity member, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. Just give me a second. So this link will take you to a form where you can basically sign up as an equity member to be put on a mailing list. And this mailing list will eventually turn into a network. So this is one of our first short-term goals, to actually establish a proper formalized network of non-UK born artists within equity. Now, of course, there are lots of artists who are not equity members. So for those people, because obviously equity can only take care of equity members. So I'm just putting in an email address, non-ukbornartists@gmail.com. non-ukbornartists@gmail.com. So this email address we set up, so that's the group of seven artists who got together with this motion, etc. So we have set up a Gmail address to basically be able to communicate and collect email addresses from people who are not equity members. And we are collating an external mailing list so we can keep in touch and inform those people as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adam. That's so great. I mean, funnily enough, the only parts I've Adam for president.
Not yet. Also, there is no president in this country anyway. I need to get my British passport
Adam
first.
for equity president.
Can you be president of our country, please?
No, someone was talking about British. Oh yeah, Philip was talking about getting his German passport. You do know that you need to do it before the end of the year in order to keep both passports, because Germany doesn't allow dual citizenship once the UK is out.
It's already in the process, fortunately.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so I still need to apply. So I have like 5 months left. So time ticking.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. No, absolutely.
Oh, God.
It may be different because Philip said, I think his father is German, right?
My dad was a survivor of the Holocaust, and you guess as dreadful and as horrific as that is.
As a multi-ethnic, multinational person as well. So.
Right, that's good to know. I mean, funnily enough, the only parts that I've ever gotten where it was not specified that she was German and I ended up getting the part were all student films. So maybe that's a glimmer of hope for the future, that the people who, are going to be
up and coming art makers.
10 years time.
And actually some of the independent filmmakers and actually scriptwriters in general, because twice I was cast in roles that were for British people, but they changed the character to an American. One actually wrote in a part for an American, which is really amazing. But it just seems like they have a bit more flexibility, because generally I go to an audition and I read the brief, and the brief says Native American speaker, must be Native American speaker. And I get there and I'm waiting and I hear lots of British people in the room waiting, and I'm thinking, well, fair enough. I'm in this country, and so, but if it's specifically asking for a Native American speaker, and you're not Damian Lewis or someone who can just absolutely nail that accent, it's always really surprising. So that's why I was saying that I'm very nondescript. I don't have a niche at all, and the one that I do have, because of where I'm from, isn't really a niche either. So it's just an interesting situation.
Yeah,
I think with the
when we
language
talk-
requirement, we probably all, I guess, or most of us probably make that experience. The amount of times I was in a room where they were asking for a German speaker, and there were so many people in there who maybe had like 2 years in primary school German and could basically say, "Hello, my name is," and that's it in German, and they were up for those roles. I was even once.
I'm just going to interrupt you real quick, Adam, just because I know that Nuno has to run off. I can't believe that it's already 6 o'clock. I could carry on this conversation for 5 years. But thank you so much, Nuno, for for your input. And I mean, now, you know, you've all connected over here, so connect in real life as well, please. And maybe let's do something like this again. Thank you so much, Nuno. Have a great, you've got a singing lesson, I think, don't you?
I do indeed. Thank you so much, everyone.
Sing pretty.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
If anybody else has to dash off, obviously feel free to do so. But other than that, I feel like we can carry on chatting a little bit, because I feel like there's still things we need to get off our chests.
I was gonna go back on the accent thing. I was gonna say similar, that it's, yeah, you see like Native American or whatever, and you get there, and it's sort of okay for the Brits to put on, and it's probably the same for German and Italian and all that stuff, but you aren't going to be able to do a British accent well enough. But it's okay for, I've been in a lot of shows where I'm the only American, and the play or everything is supposed to be American, and I end up being the de facto like accent coach, because like everyone else's American accents are just not as, you know, they're not native or whatever, and that's fine, but then it means that if I can't, my British accent is very good, but I still won't be cast as someone British because they still know I'm not British. I feel like that's just a double standard, that, because I'm sure there are people that have been cast as, like, you'll watch something and be like, I went up for that, I'm actually German, I know for a fact that actor isn't German and is putting on an accent, but I can't go up for a Brit. Like,
absolutely. And I've heard your British accent. I mean, you've even done a bloody Cockney accent at Secret Cinema, and it was absolutely spot on. So it is so frustrating, and definitely I've experienced it where I was up for cabaret for Fräulein Kost, the German hooker, and they loved me, and then a girl who was friends with the choreographer got the part, and she didn't even have German as an accent on her Spotlight TV. You know, so
there's nothing. I mean, that's the life of frustration that actors everywhere face, isn't it, day to day? And it's based on, you know, a decision that's made that is wrong, whichever way you look at it. Which is why, you know, you'll see a TV or, you know, program, a film, and you'll see an accent that looks rubbish, and therefore it'll lessen the creative authenticity of that piece. I don't know whether there's much any of us can do about that, but other than practically, if you're, you know, especially if you're trying to change the mind of creatives and say, you thought that this part could only be played by this particular, within this narrow frame, I'm going to come along and change your mind. As long as you're able to do that, then that seems like a very positive way of going about changing things.
Yeah, I think that's actually something I was going to ask Mark as well, because you said that none of the work that you have done in 8 years has been based on you being German. So clearly that doesn't work for you, but you've clearly found a way of making something work for you. So I'd be super interested to hear how you dealt with that.
Well, it's because I'm Japanese, I guess. But, well, I mean, I got another one, but it's I mean, like, without going too much into it, I think early on it was quite tricky, because I felt I wasn't Japanese enough, but to British eyes or European eyes, I guess I am Japanese enough. And I mean, it's also just kind of developing a certain confidence of, I mean, I tend to not say half anymore. I mean, even though it's silly, but like I call myself double or something, you know, like, I don't know, just that you can take ownership of whatever it is. And I always like to think of, you know, when it comes to accents and also playing roles from certain places, I think Nuno is gone now, but what I like is actually, if there's like a sort of both cultural and linguistic understanding of a role. I think, like, I've lived here for 8 years. I think when I first came here, I would not have felt entirely comfortable to play a British person. I think now, having lived here and having a little bit more cultural knowledge of living in London, and also, you know, working on you know, being able to do a bit more of a British accent, you know, I think I would feel more comfortable in it. I have I remember in drama school I have tried to speak very RP for a long time, and
Haven't we all?
But I decided to drop that in my everyday life at some point because it just feels unnatural, you know. Because I mean, like I said, I lived in America, I lived in Amsterdam, I lived in Japan, I lived here, and in Germany, of course. So like, why wouldn't all of that be reflected in the way I speak? Just like, you know, all of you as well, you know. It just happens. But what I do think are some of the positives, like I made a bit fun of that I'm getting a job now in voiceover because I'm Japanese, but we had a very good, I actually kind of hosted a Zoom session about motion capture, which is something I've worked in a fair bit over the last few years as well, in which I played mostly monsters, so it didn't have anything to do with ethnicity. So my movement was the main bit for that. But and director who joined the session also invited a voice producer from side UK, that's actually how I ended up getting the job then. I mean, I did have to provide a sample, but what he was saying was that even in voice, when they have characters that are from a certain place, they make an effort to get people who are actually from there, or know, you know, like ideally are from there in some way, because like Philip, you just said, like that you lend, I think, I don't know exactly what he said, but in I think authenticity, artistic authenticity also. I mean, in the end, like if you, Leonie, would have played Fräulein, whatever that was, I think you have your whole life of experience of living in Germany and growing up that you can lend to that part. And I mean, as much as we want to change who we are as, you know, I think artists and actors, all of that knowledge, you know, flows into it, you know, into your role. And one example I just want to mention, and then I'll shut up. I feel like I always talk too much. But I and Attila, you know this because I once was asked to audition for I think a Middle Eastern, a Syrian terrorist part in a play, and I felt very uncomfortable with that. I also read it, and it was I didn't really like the play. I think it was problematic. It was also, no offense, but it was written by a white man, and he might have a lot of knowledge of the Middle East and stuff, and it was also meant to have a positive spin, kind of in a way, but there was a lot of language in there that was, I think, problematic, and I would have no knowledge. I'm not a Muslim. I have very little relation to that. So this cultural experience and knowledge was not there to kind of criticize it in a constructive manner. I would have just said it, you know, and of course you can do research as an actor, but you can lend all of that experience, of course, to a part. And yeah, so I think and I turned it down. I turned down the audition. I spoke to my agent about it. It's like, look, I'm really uncomfortable with this, you know, and I think, what can we do? I think it's having those uncomfortable conversations, and, you know, like, just, yeah, like, if you, I think if you think you are able to do a part, great, you know, like, I think in some cases, I played a Vietnamese character before, and I multi-rolled in the play, so I felt it was okay. You know, I also had conversations with other actors about it. What do you think and stuff? And so I think in the end also we know what's right and what's not, and we just have to kind of listen to that bit and speak up about it when we can, when we feel safe about it and stuff, and turn down work, I guess, if it's not right, you know.
Absolutely. I think that's a massive point, actually, because I remember a couple of years ago there was a bit of drama in the musical theatre kind of community, because there was supposed to be a staging of West Side Story, and they cast a white actress as Maria, who is a massive name. She's like a huge star, and she was announced, and there was a massive backlash saying, why do you not cast a Hispanic actress for this part? Because, you know, she's a Hispanic character. And she then actually stepped down from the role, which, you know, obviously is also an economic decision, because the producers probably were like, okay, well, we've had a bit of a backlash, we probably need to recast this. but it's also, I think, an actor's integrity, and for us to then also have the same kind of reflexes of saying, well, I don't want somebody else to be cast as a German. If they're not German, then I also shouldn't go in for a Polish part, or, you know, something else that I feel like I wouldn't be doing justice to. So I think that's a really good point you're making there, Mark. And what I also wanted to pick up on was the voiceover work, because obviously I feel like that's the one thing where we non-UK actors can really kind of find our niche and find our work in London, which is really, I mean, I'm basically full-time voiceover now. That's almost all of the work that I get. And what you were saying about how they tend to cast authentically in voiceover, which is obviously easier because a lot of people can work remotely, and you can cast somebody in the US to get a US accent and then record it in London and everything. It's obviously easier, but it would be great if in non-audio at some point they would actually go into that direction as well and cast authentically.
Yeah, I agree. I think also one interesting thing is I don't remember who mentioned it, but about British actors who do a bad German accent or something.
Yeah. Or British actors getting to do other accents, but
oh my God,
we aren't allowed to do that.
Or I mean, I speak Dutch as well, so German. I mean, the Dutch in Friends was abysmal, but and German. I think Rory Kinnear, was it? Like he played
Oh yes.
Was it or something? I only saw the trailer, but I was like, oh my God, like it literally sounds like, you know, very posh British, you know, lad trying to sound as German as he could possibly.
It's just... In the new Penny Dreadful, I saw it. It was terrible.
It is hilarious. I don't know.
But it's also not. I think that's what it's like. You're kind of laughing about it.
I think it's if I were to make a piece of work, film or theater or whatever, right? Like, and there is a character from, you know, Burma or somewhere, you would want somebody from that place to be able to watch it and not cringe at the sight of it, right? Like, I don't know. And I think it's just kind of getting this message through to people in a way. Like, look, it's an international place now. People from everywhere can watch stuff. And if you watch stuff that is meant to be based on your country, and you just like.
But I guess that then comes down again to what Attila was saying earlier as well, how, you know, it's just easier, and also the broader audience that they are thinking they are catering for is, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith from Luton, who don't care about these kinds of things, and who don't hear that an accent is terrible, and who are not going to say, oh, why are all the doctors white, you know? So I think it's not only changing the casting process in a way of like needing to broaden your horizon when you're looking for talent, but also needing to broaden your horizon when you think like, who am I actually catering to? Who is my audience? Because the audience is also not just white anymore and British anymore. And yeah, it can get frustrating, but I think just by having these conversations and exchanging sort of experiences and lifting each other up, we can hopefully make a change at some point. And
well, maybe want to leave it on a positive note. You know, whenever I feel desperate and hurt by how things are or have been and not having a place, you know, I try to envision what the world would look like in 5 years, in 10 years, or in 20 years, because, you know, hopefully I will want to stay in this profession for that long. And honestly, I do not think that we will go backwards. I think that whatever we are, multiculturalism, globalization, you know, children being born multicultural from two places, people moving, this will increase. It will be more, and people will learn what that means. And I think so the future, if not today, the future, I think, belongs to us. You know, I think that really, like, without, I really don't want to be wanky about it, but you know, but I really trust something that is the direction that I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, that is the direction of the conversations, and I think they're going to continue. And I think eventually, you know, I think it will be an advantage to be, to all that work that we put in and the endurance and to be in the position that we're in, I think will be at an advantage, hopefully, with our background. So
Absolutely, yeah.
I just wanted to throw a question into the round very quickly, because we talked a lot about stereotypes. What if you, for yourself, decide to go for a full-on stereotype? So let's say there is a project like a commercial or whatever, and because we have so many Germans here, so I'm just going to use the German example. Let's say the writer of this project is German, and your role, you are cast as the German, and you decide to just go full-on stereotype German for comedic effect. What do you, or Italian or American or Portuguese or whatever other background you may be? What do you think about that? It's an open question. It's like there's, yeah.
To everyone.
Just curious about thoughts. Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to say about that, but like I don't want to take away. If everyone's hesitating, I'll go for it.
Stereotypes are a hard one because they are funny, but they're funny for as long as we'll let, like, stereotypes eventually become uncomfortable and difficult. Like, think about some stereotypes that were openly laughed at 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 10, even 5 years ago, that we now have realized, ooh, actually, that's really not actually funny anymore. So there's a weird, when it comes to stereotypes, I think it's safer, just American, it's safer for me to play a dumb blonde California girl, because until a couple years ago I was blonde and I was born in California, so the sort of Valley Girl thing of like, oh my god, wow, that's so funny, like, it adds a very specific character choice that I could maybe, it's a very safe one anyone would do, and I don't think anyone would take offense to it, but for the sake of the conversation, whereas I think there are some that are other stereotypes of other countries or other races or nationalities or whatever that it's probably time to put away, regardless of whether you actually are that nationality or race or whatever. And people are starting to feel more comfortable to go, hey guys, actually that's kind of not okay anymore. We really shouldn't be laughing at that, which is kind of is a good thing. I think it's, again, like you were saying, it's those uncomfortable conversations that we need to be willing to have. But once you have them, we will be raising a more literate and kind and empathetic up and coming generation of young performers, young artists, young everything, which is sort of a silver lining of the kind of shitty world we're in now, is that the people growing up in this will go, ooh, yeah, we need to do better. And so that's, I think, a kind of, to take it a little bit deeper into the stereotypical conversation, but that's something that you can kind of hope for, I think.
Absolutely.
My thoughts anyway.
Yeah, Laura, you look like you've got something to say about this.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I think we are the future, and a way that I embrace that, because I know it's not for everybody, but it's about content creating. So I started writing things where I put myself in the lead character, because if I don't see that there is a character out there for me, I'm going to create it. And yeah, I guess I've been lucky that, there's this producer woman here who was like, okay, let's do a film about the Amazon, and like, will you just make it happen? I guess it's a lot to do with that entrepreneurial spirit, or just, I'm not gonna take no for an answer, I'm gonna go do it, and you're gonna like it, and just keep fighting. It's kind of like, I just saw an interview with Sylvester Stallone, and his whole deal, and he certainly, all the doors were closed for him, and so I do think that where there's a will, there's a way, whatever that means for you, whether it's like Nuno said, and embracing all these different nationalities, or if it's fighting for what's right, like what Adam's doing right now, or creating your own content, you will find a way if it's meant for you.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful note to finish this on. You will find a way. And this has been amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and being so honest and optimistic. And I hope we can continue this in some way. Obviously, I think we all need to get involved with what Adam is doing in one way or another. Really, thank you so much.
By the way, it's not just me doing it. There is another. No. What I wanted to say, there is another group called Migrant Theatre Makers Network, they are also, so they are actually groups kind of like all having been doing some stuff, and we are all trying to connect with each other once we find out with each other. So there is stuff happening, which is great.
Yeah, Migrant Theatre Makers.
Yeah, Migrant Theatre Makers.
I just put that in the chat as well. You can all download the chat so that you have all the information that's in there as well. And just anybody who is used to the way Daniel runs these sessions and the whole pay what you can situation, I've put in the event description as well that for this particular thing, we'd love if you could donate a few pounds to the Sam Mendes Theatre Fund. What's it called? The Theatre Arts Fund. That's for people who were hit by COVID. I've put the link in the event description. So if you can spare a few quid to contribute to that, that would be amazing. Adam?
I just put 3 names. Those are, I think, the 3 person who are leading the Migrant Theatre Makers Network. I hope I spelled all their names correctly from memory. Alexandru Istudor, Lara Parmiani, and Nastasia Somers. And so they have started that. And so they don't just have actors in there, but also theatre makers, creators, writers as well. And they have like a monthly Zoom session for the last couple of months, and are talking to theatres now up and down the country to have some kind of like meetings with them and talking about access to theatre for people of non-British backgrounds.
Amazing.
And non-traditional backgrounds.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I'm gonna stop the recording now.